Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, as the case may be, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Give everyone a few minutes to drop in today. Hello, Floaty. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Miriam, welcome. Rick, welcome from SoCal. Great. Forgive me if I'm sniffling, or you probably heard me, those of you who've been attending all week long, hear me sniffle all week. I got a nice little cold that's been bugging me, but I've been pushing through and doing well. William, welcome from Florida. So we'll give everyone probably about, 3 to 5 minutes here to jump in before we get started. We don't have we don't have a ton of registrations today, so that we're not expecting too much. Should be a nice, calm session today. So if you have questions, today is a great day to ask them because there's not a lot of competition there. Like Wednesday, oh man, there were so many questions and so many things going on. Couldn't keep up with it all. There's just so much. But it was exciting. How did everyone like the Monday and Wednesday sessions with Jessica and Vellum? Did everyone get a chance to go to those or watch the replays yet on YouTube? Give me a shout out in the chat. Let me know. Yes, they were great. Ronnie says, "Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. I had a lot of fun putting those together and getting everything set up for that. We got so much more coming up this next month too. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think this year you guys are gonna be surprised by some of the new content we have coming your way. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be really cool. So watch out for February. I'm gonna got two surprise events next month. I'm excited. And it says Monday was interesting indeed. Yes, I enjoy having Jessica on here. That whole method that she uses is the Save the Cat method is really really helpful, even from a revision perspective. Awesome. Great question, Patricia. Yes, there is a replay. Here, let me even just drop my YouTube channel in here. And actually, all the replays have been posted on my YouTube channel, so check that out. I'll drop that right there for you. You can go there. Make sure you subscribe. That way you can always get access to them and see them. Kate, this is your first webinar. Oh, I love to hear that. I always love to hear we have someone new. So, Kate, this is your first webinar. Welcome. We have a whole library of webinars available on YouTube and in our webinar library on our website, literaturelatte.com/library. We'll drop in a bunch of links for you today. So check out our stuff. We got lots of stuff going for you. I am really excited to be talking about cloud syncing today, writing on the go, all that fun stuff with Scrivener. I know a lot of people kind of struggle with this aspect, so I want to make sure we get everyone kind of set up and know what to do and how to do it. Chloe says, what I saw was great, but my network went down and didn't come back until it was over. Excited for the replay. Great, Well, I'm sorry to hear that your network went down. That's never fun. I had a similar situation. What was it? Not long ago, I had a meeting with someone and we were just wrapping up the meeting and my internet just crashed. I couldn't believe it. And I had the hardest time getting back. We were like finalizing the details of our meeting and I was like scrambling to get this all finished up because I'm like, oh, if I had just finished 5 minutes earlier, it wouldn't have been a problem. But it was a good meeting. We were getting a lot done and having a good time. So anyway, Patricia says, I'm a long-time Scrivener user, but I have been looking into alternatives quite honestly because syncing scares me. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Patricia, syncing doesn't have to be that scary. Um, how complicated it is depends on how many devices and if you're using your iPhone or your iPad with it. When you add the iPhone iPad element, it does make it a teensy little bit more difficult, but nothing that's too unmanageable. We'll kind of look at that a little bit today. We're going to focus on key things you can do to prevent problems when you're syncing, and I'll kind of show you how you do that. And I know that Ronnie said, I hope you'll show another option other than Dropbox. Ronnie, I wish I could say yes to that, but to be honest, I don't have a different option other than Dropbox. Right now, to this day, Dropbox is still the best option for Scrivener projects. So I wish I had another option for you, but Dropbox still is our best option for Scrivener. There's just none of them work quite as well as Dropbox. But I will say this, that I am really excited about. We do have some new things coming out this year. Around in from Literature Latte. So watch for that. There's fun. I can't say anything about it quite yet, but we are the things that are coming have taken into account the headache that some people have with cloud syncing. So hopefully, very soon I'll be doing a presentation on those updates. I can't say anything yet because they're not confirmed yet, but we are looking at some new stuff that could affect how you cloud sync going forward. So stay tuned for that. It's fun stuff coming your way. I'll let you know as soon as I know when things are happening. Okay, let's see here. Patricia says mainly Mac, MacBook Pro, and iPad. Okay. So you're using iMac, MacBook Pro, and iPad. Okay, that's a reasonable thing. In fact, I use my Mac Studio, I use my MacBook Pro, and I also use my iPad and my iPhone. I use four devices together. Oops, where's my camera right here? I use four devices, and so yeah, it's not too terrible to set up. We'll take a look at that real quick. Give me just one second. Okay, perfect. MacBook Pro and iPad. Excellent. So I see a lot of people saying iPad. I'm going to see if I can get my iPad out and maybe we'll try to look at that, how to set that up today. Um, Oh, but Nina says, same here. Have all Mac products and was never able to sync between them. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. So hopefully we can kind of dispel all those problems today and figure it all out. Well, we are 5 minutes after the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So if you have questions or if you're having problems syncing, thanks, dear. We will we'll answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of the Q&A today. And if there's anything we can't get to, I highly recommend you reach out to our technical support team because these are the kind of issues. If you're having problems syncing, we want to help you work through them. We want to help you figure them out. Because believe it or not, even I in the past have had problems syncing with Scrivener, and with on my iPhone, for example, it just for one reason, one day, I just could not get it to do it, and I left it alone. I think for probably like a day or two, I undid everything and just deleted it, turned off all my syncing, everything, took reset the app, everything, and I came back a few days later, did it all again, and it worked. And it's like, okay, that's that's good. It was just an off day. But hopefully we can resolve the majority of everyone's problems today. Okay, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to get started and get this ball rolling. So first off, welcome everyone to the final event of our January webinar series brought to you by the creative minds behind Scrivener and Scapple, Literature and Latte. I'm Oliver Evanson, your host today, bringing you insights drawn from over 15 years of writing and Scrivener expertise. Now, whether you're a seasoned author or just starting your writing adventure, our webinars are designed with your needs in mind. And today we'll be exploring effortless writing on the go, Scrivener's cloud syncing secrets revealed. Now, don't forget that a member of our dedicated technical support team stands ready to tackle any technical issues and answer your Scrivener questions throughout this session. I do have Alex moderating today, so if you encounter any issues, please reach out to her in the Q&A or the chat. Now, for those of you who wish to revisit this session or share it with your fellow writers, this webinar will be recorded, and you can find the replay on my YouTube channel tomorrow and enjoy it ad-free next week in the Literature and Latte webinar library. So links will be provided for that shortly. Just stay tuned. Now, to kick things off, let's see here. Actually, you know what? We're going to go ahead and yeah, let me see if I can find my chat window real quick. It always disappears on me. I'm going to try to pull that up real quick. There we go. And to kick things off, I just want to hear from you guys about. Okay, actually, you know what? You've already answered that question. We kind of went through that. I was going to ask you the question about how many of you guys have used cloud syncing before, and I can see we kind of talked about that already. So I'm going to skip past it and we'll just move right along. Here we go. Okay, so let's talk a minute about our schedule and what's going on there. First off, I'll begin with a short introduction to who I am and what you should expect to learn today. From there, we'll move straight into our training. I'll explain what cloud syncing is, why you should use it with Scrivener, how to set it up on a Mac. Plus, I'll share 4 key secrets to keeping your writing flowing seamlessly when you're on the go. And I'll even address some common questions I hear about this topic. And to wrap it up, I'll provide you all with a wealth of free resources to help you utilize and deepen your understanding of Scrivener and improve your writing skills. I'll also leave ample time at the end for our Q&A, where I'll do my best to answer as many questions as possible. And of course, if there's any questions we either can't answer because of time or whatever else, or you think up after the fact, we'll make sure we'll have those email addresses available for you so our technical support team can help you with those. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I know we had some new, someone here today was their first webinar. Welcome, Kate. My name is Oliver Evanson. I'm a writer, editor, and mentor with 15 years of Scrivener and writing expertise. And I'm so excited to teach you what I've learned in my position as the outreach specialist for Literature Latte, the creators of Scrivener and Scapple. Now, I love connecting with like-minded writers like you. If you'd like to connect with me, please send me an email, or better yet, join my newsletter. I frequently send out valuable tips and techniques to help you become a better writer. And all subscribers will receive a free copy of my free starter novel template. And I've had some people emailing lately that they haven't been getting the email. So if that happens to be you, just email me. I'll make sure you get a link to get a copy of that template. And if you'd like to see what books I'm writing as well, I'd love to have you check out my Substack, oliverevanson.substack.com. You can use that QR code right there and scan it and pull it up and see what I'm writing in the Scrivener and have a good old time with that. Okay. Well, let's dive right into our training and let's talk about, so what is cloud syncing anyway? And I remember when cloud syncing became a big thing, it was really a foreign concept to me. My mom and my parents were asking about all this stuff, and I was like the tech guru in my house, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, what any of this is. And it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around it, but simply put, it's the process of storing and accessing data over the internet rather than only from a physical device, say like a flash drive or a hard drive or something, an external hard drive. Now, what this does is it allows for seamless syncing of your work across multiple devices, making it easier to write on the go. And I know we all know of multiple different services that offer this service, and we all have our opinions on which are better, but we'll talk more about that. But the main thing here is cloud syncing has become increasingly important in today's fast-paced world where we are constantly on the move and need access to our work at all times. I use it every day. I'm always, either if I'm not on my computer at home, I'm on my laptop somewhere outside of the house, or I'm on my phone or my iPad, as the case may be. I just need access to all of it all the time, depending on what device, no matter what device I'm using, right? And by keeping our work or our writing in the cloud, it eliminates the need for manually transferring files or relying on those external storage devices, making writing much more efficient and a lot more convenient, right? Now, the good news is Scrivener is one tool that has fully embraced cloud syncing and allows users to seamlessly work on their projects from different devices. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So let's talk about why you should take advantage of cloud syncing with Scrivener. Now, the answer lies in the unparalleled freedom, organization, and peace of mind it provides. With cloud syncing, you can access your projects anytime, anywhere without being tethered to a specific device. And I love that. I love that I can, work on my computer at home and then take my laptop out and continue working on the same project. Now, this means you can capture ideas on your phone during your commute, draft your scenes on your tablet at a cafe, or you could polish your writing on your computer at home, all without missing a beat. Now, cloud syncing keeps all of your projects organized, ensuring that all your updates are stored in one centralized location. And it also helps you reduce the risk of losing work to accidental deletions or even device failures, catastrophic device failures. Additionally, for collaborative efforts or backup needs, cloud syncing allows your work to be safely stored and easily shared. Now, by leveraging Scrivener's robust cloud syncing features, you're empowering yourself to write smarter, stay organized, and maintain creative momentum no matter where life takes you. But the question remains, how do I get started? And I know that's where a lot of us really stumble like this. How do I even get started? What do I do with this? The good news is it's actually a lot easier than I think. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it and we run into some really simple issues that we can resolve if we just take a fresh view of everything. So today I'm going to really focus on setting it up on my Mac today. I'm going to show you how that's done, but the process is relatively simple or similar on PC. And we'll see if we have time, we'll also take a look at my iPad here and see if we can set it up here as well. In fact, let me just quickly do that real quick, get that started so that we'll be ready to go when it's time to do that. Give me 1 second, guys. Should have done this beforehand, but on link. Give me one. There we go. Okay, we'll do its thing there. But let's talk about what we need, what our steps are here to getting started. So first off, step one, choosing a cloud service. And I know a lot of people limit, why are we using Dropbox? I'm not a big fan of Dropbox, but the truth is the reason why we recommend Dropbox is because honestly, at this point, it is the best cloud sync service for Scrivener. Now, I'm not saying it's the best cloud sync service hands down. There are certainly other ones that are better. To be fair, I haven't had any serious problems with Dropbox, but its sync methodology just works so much better with Scrivener than any other cloud sync service. And it's also required if you're planning on syncing with Scrivener on your iPhone or your iPad. And at this time, that's the only way you can set up sync between iPhone and iPads with Dropbox. So you will need to install the Dropbox app on your devices and sign into your account. The main thing to remember there is make sure you sign into the same account on all your devices. That's one common problem I see is that you may have multiple Dropbox accounts, and if you sign into different Dropbox accounts, you're going to have problems, right? Now, if you're curious about my recommendation on other cloud sync services, I do have some recommendations beyond, uh, be, sorry, beyond Dropbox. So stay tuned. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation. Now, step two, we're going to talk about setting up a dedicated Scrivener project folder. This is also key. You may have heard me say time and time again that you need a central location, one folder where you keep all of your projects. Now, to some degree, that's true. I actually have two. Okay, three if you want to count my local one, but typically you need one place, at least one, where everything should go. And I'll explain why I have two later in a minute if anyone's curious. Now, this helps keep your work organized and ensures that everything is stored in one location for easy access. Now, third, you want to save your project to Dropbox or to your Cloud Sync service, whichever one you're using, right? Um, Open your Scrivener project on Mac and go to File, Save As. Save the project in the Dropbox folder you just created. So if you create a new project, you can just save it there. Or if you have existing projects, you may actually need to move them into that folder. And we'll look at that today too. This ensures it's stored in the cloud and ready to sync. Okay, step 4 here, enable syncing on other devices. So install Scrivener and Dropbox on your other devices, such as your iPhone, iPad, or another computer, ensuring that all devices are connected to the same Dropbox account. I'll say that again, same Dropbox account. Make sure it's the same one. That's such a common error I see all the time. So that makes sure that everything syncs together seamlessly and you're actually going to see your files on each device, right? And if you've correctly followed step 2, linking your projects to Scrivener on a mobile device will actually be really, really easy. I'll show you how to set that up. There is a special directory that makes it a little bit, or a special folder, set of folders you should use to do that. Now, for PC or other Macs, projects will conveniently appear in the same Dropbox folders ready to use. So you'll just be able to open up your Dropbox folder on your PC or your Mac, wherever you go. It'll be in the same location. You just have to navigate to that folder. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's see this in action. Let's make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to, let me switch screens real quick. There we go. Okay. So first off, like I said, I recommend Dropbox. And if we wanted to, we could go to Safari here, to dropbox.com, right? And we need to go ahead and install it. Okay. So we might want to actually look for Dropbox. I think it's /download. Is that the one I'm looking for? Yep. And then when you go to dropbox.com/download, actually will physically drop that installer based on what device you're using directly into your downloads folder right there. In which case, if we didn't have Dropbox installed right, we go ahead and open that up and then double click that to install Dropbox. Now, I've already got Dropbox installed. You can see it right up here in my top menu. This is what it looks like. Okay. So we go through that installation process and get it all installed. And the main thing that you need to do is make sure that you sign in to your account. It's the same account all the way through. You can see I have my account here, oliverevans@gmail.com. So I do have a couple different Dropbox accounts. I have actually stopped using them. I merged everything together into one account. I'd actually recommend that too. There's typically no reason to keep multiple accounts, I guess, unless you're trying to keep, you don't want to pay for the full service. I do use the paid version right here. So I have like 2 terabytes of storage here. For me, since I use Scrivener so much and I also use it for work and a few other things, it just made sense for me to get the Dropbox subscription. But honestly, if your projects are relatively small, you can probably get away with the 2 gigabytes of free data they give out to everyone. Just going to be dependent on your specific situation. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and check that out there. Let's see here. So with Dropbox installed and with it set up here, okay, what it does is it'll actually create a folder in your Finder. Now, if you're on a PC, it's going to be your Windows Explorer, and it's going to be this little folder right here called Dropbox. Okay. And now your Dropbox, depending if it's brand new, it's probably not going to have a bunch of files or folders in it. But essentially, the main thing you need to remember is where you're going to save your Scrivener project. So you could literally come in here if you're only planning to use Dropbox alone with your PC or your Mac or just desktop computers, then you can go here and just click right click new folder, and just call it Scrivener Projects, like so, and save your Scrivener projects in there. And you can see there, it's already syncing. It's synced right there. That little green arrow tells me it's synced up to Dropbox now. And I can just literally drag and drop my Scrivener projects in here. In fact, maybe we'll do that just real quick. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, create a new window to the left. And let's go to my Scrivener demo files here. Looks like they're also saved in Dropbox. Let's see here. If they weren't, I could say, hey, this is from my documents here. There we go. Direct documents, Scrivener projects. There we go. And I could actually take these guys and drag them and drop them right over here into my Dropbox folder there. You can see now it's syncing. You can see by that little arrow there. And there it goes. And the cool thing is, just by dragging and dropping this like this, once Dropbox is done syncing these files, if I go to my PC, for example, or even my iPad here, if they're linked to the same account, actually not my iPad, to my PC, I could actually find this, or another Mac. I could easily open up my Dropbox folder and find my files right there by just opening up the Dropbox folder and looking for Scrivener projects. It'll be there synced up and ready to go for me, like so. And of course, if I want to take those out, I can drag and drop them out. It's going to warn me, hey, do you want to take those out of Dropbox? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go ahead and allow myself to move out of Dropbox like so. And it'll unsync them, ironically. Okay. So there we go. That's one way we can do it. And that's only if you don't plan to use a mobile device like an iPhone or an iPad. Now, if you're using an iPhone or an iPad, this is where I recommend you save your projects. You want to create a folder. If one doesn't exist already, create a folder called apps. Okay. We'll double click to open that. Let's make this bigger so we can see. And now once that is open, you can see here, I have several folders inside here. And this is a folder directed, typically Dropbox will make for you anytime an app wants to use Dropbox to save data. So you can see I have a couple different apps here. I even have some templates and things. Even Vellum shows up here. My to-do app shows up here. That's how it syncs and some other things. Even Scrivener right there. So I can double click. You want to make sure you create a Scrivener folder if one doesn't exist already. Double click that. And then inside here are all the active projects that I typically work on my mobile devices and my desktop devices. Okay. So you can see that they're all there. They all have that little check mark next to them. That means they've all been synced up to Dropbox and they are available to be downloaded onto any other device that I have Dropbox installed and signed into. Okay. Just like so. If I wanted to, we could make this small. Okay, I could take one of these guys and easily just drag and drop it right in there like that. So if I have projects elsewhere on my computer and I want them over here, I can easily do that. Can bring it over into this folder and have it sync up just like so. There we go. Okay. Now, I did mention that I have more than one Dropbox folder here. So you can see these ones, like I said, these are the ones that I use with my mobile device. I do have a little folder over here. I call it desktop only. And that's just my own name I gave it. This is just projects that I only use on my PC. I only use on my MacBook. I only use on my Mac Studio. I don't use them on mobile devices. And primarily the reason behind that, if you look at them, let's go ahead and open this, my webinar project where I can keep track of all my webinars and things that I create, all the content I create. You can see it's about 8 gigabytes of data. So I have a finite amount of data. I can't be, what do you call it? Or I can't afford to upload and download 8 gigabytes of data off on a cellular signal. Now I could set up my device to not do that, to always sync on Wi-Fi and all that jazz. But I just found that often I would leave the house and then I'd have this big, massive project that would need to sync on my iPad or my iPhone, and it would just eat up my data if I wasn't home, or because I can only choose to sync everything. I can't just choose to sync one or two things. So I just removed it out. Anything that kind of gets bigger like that, I just kind of move out into a separate folder that I only work on for desktop only. And it doesn't have to be in the apps folder here. I just happen to stuck it there. It could be out here as well. It could be called whatever you want. So long as you know what it is, what it's about, what's going on there. But the main thing here is that if you want to work with mobile devices, it should be in apps, Scrivener, those two folders. Okay, like so. That's typically where that's the easiest way to set that up on an iPhone or an iPad. Okay. So let's see. Enable. Okay, let's talk about enabling syncing on other devices. I do have my iPad here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you can see it. Give me a second. Hopefully this will work. And let me know if you can't see anything. And I'm sure Alex will give me a shout out here if that's the case. Okay, so I already have Scrivener opened up. Let's go ahead and just close it out real quick so you can see. We'll just tap Scrivener right here. Oops. Tap it and open. You can see there's nothing synced. If I tap the sync icon, it'll give me an option there to link Dropbox or update from iTunes. Okay, the option we want to select is link Dropbox, like so. Now, I also have the Dropbox app installed, and it is already connected to my Dropbox account. Now, this can make it a lot faster. So if you want to, you can actually go to the App Store, like so, and search up Dropbox, right, and download that to make it a little bit quicker. It does make it a little bit faster if you go ahead and go to Dropbox and you download that and you sign in to Dropbox there. It just makes it a little bit faster. If you don't have Dropbox installed on your iPad or iPhone, that's fine. You'll just be prompted to go ahead and what do you call it? Just sign in directly, and it'll take you to like a browser or something. You'll sign in, it'll come back, authenticate, and start syncing. Personally, I like to have it already on my device. You can see it's already on there, so I'm going to go ahead and click it right there and get started, like so. Okay, now Scrivener is going to ask, or Dropbox is going to ask, Scrivener would like to access your files and folders in your Dropbox account. And you're going to say, yes, I want to allow Scrivener to do that. Click allow. There we go. Now we're back here. And this is when the important part where we set up our Dropbox folder, where it's going to look inside Dropbox to find our Scrivener projects. Now you can see I can select another option here and go through. I could literally select that Scrivener projects folder we just had right there, or you could even come up to apps here and select my Dropbox, my desktop only folder. Now I don't recommend that. I recommend you just select the default setting, which is apps Scrivener. And the nice thing about this, if you set this up first before you even move anything into your on your Mac or your PC, this folder directly will be created automatically from the iPad in Dropbox, and you'll just have to move your projects into the Scrivener folder in your Dropbox folder there. So we'll go ahead and click done. Now it's going to be syncing with Dropbox. If you put files in there, then it's going to try to sync everything that's already there. In my case, I do have a lot of files already in there, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time to sync that up. So we'll leave that alone for a little bit. I'm hoping it'll just show us the number here real quick before I turn it off. Maybe not. Yep. So just bear in mind if there are a lot of Scrivener projects, this could take a while. And the best thing to do is just leave it open, maybe plug it in, just if to make sure your battery doesn't die or anything like that. That's important. And just leave it. In this case, I'm at 100%, so I'll probably be fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off for a second, and we'll come back in a minute to look at that. I will plug it in though, just to be on the safe side. The thing is, one thing I'll say about that when you're syncing, especially the first time, or even when you're syncing anytime with Dropbox in a mobile device, just leave it open, let it finish. If you try to swipe out of it and go somewhere else, the sync will not finish, it will not complete. So you do have to keep Scrivener open until that sync is finished. Okay, let's close that out. Looking good here. Okay, so I think we will switch back to our presentation here. Where did that go? There it is. Share. And I'm sure there's going to be questions, but hang tight with me. We'll get to those soon. Well, now that we've kind of seen it in action, how we might go ahead and set that up on our Mac or our iPad, um, what are some things we can do to keep it working seamlessly, to keep the process going? Once we've got this set up and ready to go, how can we avoid problems? Because I think that's what a lot of people are worried about. They're either having problems or they've had problems, or like, how do I keep things working seamlessly? So I'm going to talk about some keys or guidelines that I recommend to make sure that you keep your cloud syncing with Scrivener seamless, simple, easy. Okay. So, but before I dive in, I would love to hear from you. Has anyone ever lost valuable work because they didn't have a backup, or maybe because of a sync issue, or maybe just plain old bad luck. I will say this, honestly, no cloud sync solution is 100% foolproof. There, things can happen, but in my case, I've never had a data loss issue in the cloud so far. That's me personally, never had it. I know people have, and I know it can happen, but and that doesn't mean I don't back up to an external drive. I do, and I do recommend you do as well. But cloud syncing really is a great way to protect your work in the case of a catastrophic device failure, or perhaps even if your device is lost or stolen. Let me see if there's anything in the chat here I'm missing. Come on, there we go. Okay, let's see. Ba, 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 ba. 3 definitely works. I just tried it. Ann says, I haven't lost a project, but I've had issues with making changes that weren't saved, so ended up with 2 different versions. Nightmare. Yes, Ann, that is a nightmare. That is a nightmare. I totally feel you there. And so we're going to talk about specifically how we can avoid that. I have had that happen to you, believe it or not. Let's take my webinar project, for example. So I actually was one time working on my laptop, my MacBook Pro, um, editing my webinar, my presentation in Scrivener, which was great, and I never typically have a problem with it. But one day, I closed up my computer, came back to my Mac Studio at home, set to work again, and then I realized that, oh, all my changes from my MacBook were not showing up here, and the project was like out of date and things were missing. I'm like, what's going on? Uh, Turns out what had happened there is I hadn't allowed my project on my MacBook Pro to finish syncing before I started work on my Mac Studio. And it's actually a pretty simple mistake to make. And if I had even just waited maybe a minute or two longer before closing my computer, my laptop, and then waited a minute or two longer on my studio, on my Mac Studio, it wouldn't have been a problem. But it's little things like that can cause big problems. So I know the feeling. I know the feeling. So let's look at that. Let's talk about those things right now and how we go about fixing that. Okay. So let's jump into our first guideline. First off, never open the same project on more than one device at a time. This one is really important. I know this is hard to hear, especially if you're a collaborator, like, oh, we want to collaborate, we want to work on the same Scrivener project. You can do that. There are ways to do that, but you cannot open the project on the same computer at the same time. So make sure that you close your project on one computer before leaving that computer and opening it on another machine. Very similar problem I had. Not quite the same, but close. Um, sorry. Scrivener will warn you if it thinks the project is open on another computer, thankfully. 9 times out of 10, I get that, and I go ahead and go to the other device, quickly close it out, allow Dropbox to finish syncing, and I jump right back on my computer, allow it to finish syncing, and that sounds like a long time, but really, it's a matter of minutes at most, sometimes even seconds. But whenever you come onto a computer and your scrivener says, "Hey, your project is open on another device," make sure you check your other device and that it is in fact closed. Okay, always heed this warning. It'll save you so much time. One thing, keep in mind that if you fail to follow this simple guideline, it can result in cloud sync or in sync conflicts, or worse, it can even result in project corruption and data loss. So watch out for that one. Our next guideline number 2, always allow Dropbox to finish uploading before shutting down your computer or putting it to sleep. And this is particularly difficult for mobile device users and for laptop users, basically anyone who's working on the go, right? You kind of just oftentimes we'll just shut off our iPad, right? We'll just be like, oh, I'm done. Click, turn it off. Or my MacBook, for example, I'll open it up, I'll be working on, oh, I have to go, let's close it and jump off. But I have made it a habit to not do that. I check my Dropbox folder, I'll come up to the Dropbox icon, I'll check, make sure everything is done syncing. In fact, I do this every day now. As I often take my kids to the gym, where I do some work there while they are playing around and having fun at the gym. And I always check my Dropbox before going to make sure everything's fully synced before I close that computer and walk out. So syncing files can take a while, and if you don't give Dropbox the opportunity to upload Scrivener's final changes before sleeping or shutting down your machine, it just won't get done. Okay, and that can result in, you guessed it, sync conflicts. Oh, or worse, right? Where the project is in completely just two different versions, and they don't even sync together at all. Oh, it just becomes a nightmare in some cases. So Thankfully, in most cases, Dropbox syncs does this pretty quickly and efficiently in the background of your Mac and PC. In fact, when I'm at home, I almost never have a problem with it. It's always syncing relatively quickly because we have really good Wi-Fi here. However, when I go to the gym or I'm tethered to my phone, for example, for my cellular connection, that internet connection is often much slower, and that can delay sync uploads from Dropbox. And one thing about mobile devices, as we'll see, there is no background sync on an iPad or an iPhone. You actually have to manually press that sync button for it to sync. Or if you have it set up when you close a project, it'll automatically start that syncing process. But if you just close out of the app or just turn off your phone, those syncs didn't happen. I think that's probably where most people run into problems. I wish that was a little bit better on Element right now. I do wish that was a little bit more intuitive on the mobile applications. That's something we definitely are working to improve. But that is kind of the secret. That's kind of the key there. Just make sure it's fully synced before you turn off your phone or you close your computer. Okay, and we can easily. I'll show you how to do that. Actually, let's look at that on the Mac real quick before I go to our next one here. Okay, so if I'm on a PC, it'll be in the bottom right corner most likely, unless you've customized your Windows taskbar toolbar here, right? It'll be in the bottom right corner here, and you can click that there, and you can see all the little apps. Dropbox will be one of them. You can check that. Now, for Mac users, it's going to be up here, right? We can click this right here, and this is where we check. And I'm looking for these words right here. Your files are up to date. If it says that, I'm good. Now, I'm a little bit paranoid, and I think I'm kind of proud of myself for that. I guess I don't know. Um, I always like to make sure. So what I do sometimes to make sure that this syncing isn't like delayed or anything isn't kind of screwed up or something, which can happen from time to time with any application. I go ahead and pause the sync. Okay, and what I do is I pause it, and I don't leave it paused for 30 minutes. I actually immediately unpause it or immediately resume it, and that starts up and it starts syncing automatically. So it starts checking all your files again. Say, hey, is everything in sync? Is everything looking good? And you can see it's taking a minute here to do that. And you can actually see in the icon now, it says it's syncing there. So I'll give it a minute there to do just that. Now, bear in mind, I am streaming right now, so my internet connection is burdened with that along with everything. So this is going to take a little bit longer, but there it goes. Yep, see, your files are up to date. Everything's in sync. You're good to go. You can see it added that one folder we created right here just a little bit ago. I deleted that. There it goes. It starts syncing again, syncing, and it removes it like so. So you can see how that might work, how that goes there. Let's look real quick while we're out of the presentation too at our iPad, how that is coming along. Just to give you an idea here. You can see there we are. We're about halfway done. And I think it's probably been about 10 or 15 minutes since we started. You see, I've left the iPad open this whole time. Still at 100% battery, so that's good. This is not something you want to do on like 50% or not even like 20% battery life. This is something you want to do on full battery life or at the very least plugged in, right? You can see, so that's getting through. It's getting done. You can see my projects have started populating. They're showing up here, so that's looking good. Yeah, and anytime you have a problem with syncing and something's not lining up, you can unlink and relink. Just bear in mind if you do that, it takes a little bit of time for everything to load back up again and get fresh. There we go. So let's go ahead and close that out there. Stop mirroring. And let's go back to our presentation and talk about our next guideline here. Okay. So next guideline, always verify your Dropbox folder is fully synced before opening your project. And akin to our last guideline where we were doing it when we were closing our project and we were stopping working, when we open up our project on a new device, we want to make sure that when we start working on the new device, everything is in sync, just like I showed you just a second ago. So you have to do it when you close it, make sure everything's synced up, all your changes have been uploaded, and when you come to your new device, make sure that all your changes have been downloaded to the new device. Now, that sounds like a long, tedious process. Really, it's not. Dropbox does it most of the time, and in most cases, you can just click, like I showed you, you can just click that Dropbox icon either in your Windows toolbar or in the macOS top menu, and you can check, are the files up to date? Great. And if you're extra paranoid like me, you can pause that, resume it, make sure everything is in fact synced up, and then continue with your work. Honestly, I do it so often now that I don't even think about it. It's just become habitual. I just do it, I check it, I don't even think about it. And that alone has prevented me from losing any data sense. I haven't had any problems with it. I love it. Simple habit to do, simple thing to do once you add it to your regular routine of writing. Not a problem at all. And our last guideline is to frequently back up your projects both locally and in the cloud. And this is going to protect you from all the bad stuff that you may encounter. So even if I have a problem, I have backups saved on, let me show you. I got some flash drives here. On flash drives. Ooh, do we remember these? Do we still do people still use these? Yes. I have them backed up on flash drives. I have them backed up on larger external drives. I have I even still have them saved locally on the cloud. So the good news is by default, Scrivener actually does automatically create a backup copy of your project every time it closes. However, the backup location is most likely only set up locally on your device. It's in a folder called the application support folder. I can show you how to change that, as this case may be. Now, personally, I recommend that you set up your backups to sync with the cloud sync service like Dropbox. This is a situation where if your cloud, if your what do you call it? Your backups are zipped or compressed, you're welcome to back up to iCloud or Google Drive or Box or any of the others. That's fine, so long as they're zipped and they're not like live projects you could open up and edit. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a bit. But if you want to use Dropbox to back up your projects, you need to designate a different backup folder for each computer. And I recommend that you regularly do manual backups to an external drive as an additional precaution. And real quick, although this presentation isn't really about backing up, I'll just quickly show how you might do some of that real quick here. So let's switch back over here. And we'll come back in here. So if I wanted to go ahead and back up things, first off, I'm going to open up, let's just open up our starter novel template here from yesterday. It's going to open up Scrivener for me. And I'm going to go to Scrivener settings. It's going to be file options on the PC. We're going to go to backup and we're going to look up for the backup location here. And this is where we designate a backup folder. Now, when I say having a backup folder for every device, that means my MacBook Pro will have a different folder. My Mac Studio has a different folder. My iPad potentially could have a different folder, although typically I just do it from desktop devices. But let's go ahead and open up my backup folder and see what it looks like. I'm going to open that. You can see here, here's my Mac Studio backups, right? So I actually came into Dropbox. I created a folder called backups. And inside that, I created a folder for each device I use regularly. So I have my Asus ProArt Studio Book, yada, yada, yada. It's just my PC, essentially, my right there. You can see there's my backups for my PC. Here's my backups for my Mac Studio. And here's my backups for my MacBook Pro. And what I would do is I just go to each device, open up Scrivener like so, go to the backup folder, and I click choose. And then I just have to go and designate that folder. Just choose which one I want to use. In this case, I'm on my Mac Studio, so I'm going to be using that guy right there, open, like that. And that makes sure that my backups are sent to that folder. And then likewise, those folders, since they're stored in Dropbox, they get uploaded to the cloud and they're available across all my devices. And in addition to this, I can easily also drag and drop this folder into an external drive, right? So if I have a flash drive or an external drive, I can drag and drop that from time to time to an external drive, or I can go to Scrivener directly and I can just go to the project I want to back up. Let's say, right here. Let's say I want to back up this starter novel template project. I go to File, Backup, Backup to. And then I could then, you see it gives a date and everything here, a date and a time. I could go ahead and then back this up. I would back it up as a zip file or a compressed file. And I would just need to navigate to the external drive. It's probably going to be somewhere over here. If I'm on a Windows Explorer PC, it's going to have it somewhere over here on the side. Same for a Mac. Just find that external drive, whatever its name is, click it, and then save it in there like so. That's how I would do that. Now, that's a quick rundown on backing up, but it's not the main focus of our presentation, but hopefully that's helpful. So in case anything does happen in the cloud, you have yourself not only a cloud backup, but you also have yourself an external backup from an external drive. Okay. Here we go. Well, now with our 4 guidelines wrapped up, let's discuss some of the most frequently asked questions I get with cloud syncing. Now, first off, what cloud sync service does Literature Latte recommend? And I think I've been clear on this, but I always like to reiterate it. We recommend Dropbox. And I know that's frustrating to some people, but it's just what works best. The sync methodology is designed to work with live projects or backups, and it works really, really well. Now, alternatively, if you are going to compress your files, like I showed earlier, if you are going to zip them, which I do recommend it saves you space and makes it safer to store in iCloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, etc. Any of those is just fine, so long as you're just using it for backup. And I know a lot of people use different cloud sync services. That's kind of your best option there if you want to keep backups in the cloud and still use those services. Now, bear in mind, you can theoretically you could still keep a project in iCloud. You could still keep one in OneDrive and Google Drive. I just don't recommend it because I have used iCloud, I have used OneDrive, I have used Google Drive, and I've stored Scrivener projects in all of them. And inevitably, at some point, at one time or another, my project was corrupted. Data was lost. Something happened. I've done it in all of them. I've lost data in all of them, and to me, it just wasn't worth it. I just stick with Dropbox, and like I said, I have not had any sync problems since. I absolutely love it. Now, are there some cloud services I shouldn't use with Scrivener for editing a project across multiple devices? In fact, I just talked about this, I guess, right? Um, Google Drive, iCloud, OneDrive, Box, just to name a few. Don't save your live projects in these. I just don't recommend it. I mean, it's your choice, right? It's your choice. You can make that decision, right? But I'm just warning you that it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Don't do it because, in my experience, and I've seen it, and we've had customers emailing us, but I'm like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, don't use those services because Google Drive in particular. I want to like Google Drive, but that's the worst one for me. I've had so many problems with data being lost in Google Drive. I don't know what Google is doing to my project, but it's just like going in there and changing things and deleting things and not fun. Not fun. Yeah, so just don't do it. Now, main thing is if you want to use those cloud sync services, I recommend you use them for backups. Store your backups there. Make sure you compress them or zip them. Scrivener does a lot of that automatically for you unless you manually turn that feature off. So make sure that's turned on in your backup settings and it's compressed or zipped, and that when your backups go there, they're just compressed and they'll be safe. They'll be fine. They'll be good. Oops. Yep. And we already answered that question. Yes, if the project is zipped. Okay. Another question I commonly get is what does sync with mobile devices do? And I think the big thing about this one is a lot of times we see that button in Scrivener, like, okay, so to sync with Scrivener, I have to click this button to sync. In reality, that's not what that button precisely does. What it does actually is it checks to see if your project is open and is in sync with what's in the cloud. So like if your project, what it'll do when you click that button, it'll say, oh, it'll look in the cloud and say, okay, this is the project that's locally set on your device. It'll check that's currently open on your device. It'll check the cloud and say, hey, is there any differences between these two projects, the one in the cloud, the one that's you have open? If there are changes, it'll close it out and reopen it. And then sometimes there might be conflicts and things that come up there. It's possible, but not always. However, it's a really handy tool if you come back to your computer, let's say your project is still open. You're like, oh crap, I left my project open and I edited it somewhere else. Not good, right? Because you broke that first guideline if you left your project open and you worked on it somewhere else. You had technically open on two different devices. Now, bear in mind, this is fairly difficult to do, but it can happen. It's happened to me before. It does. But the nice thing about the sync with mobile devices button, you just click that button, it'll check to see if there's any changes. 9 times out of 10, it's going to say no changes were detected and you're going to be fine. But if it does, typically it'll actually trigger a little reaction. It'll close out your project. It'll try to sync those changes as best as it can and then bring up the new project. If there were any conflicts, it'll let you know there were conflicts and you can go through those and look at those changes. And take it from there. The good news is that Scrivener often will detect these changes automatically. Oftentimes, you don't even have to press the button. Scrivener will automatically detect it for you. It doesn't always, but it usually does. But if you're ever uncertain, you left your project open and then edited on another device, the best thing to do is to use this feature before making any more changes to your project. So at that point, if you edit on one, come back and edit it again, you're just asking for a nightmare scenario of either product corruption or sync change or sync conflicts there. Okay, sorry, my nose is going to look. Let me blow it real quick. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, guys. So, how do I resolve sync conflicts? So, ideally, if you keep your cloud sync guidelines then you're not going to run into these. Ideally, you're going to prevent most, if not all, of your sync conflicts. However, all of us at some point may need to review a sync conflict to determine which of the files is the most up to date in our binder. And what you'll need to do is literally open up one editor, we'll open up another, and compare the conflict with the original and decide which one is the most recent document, which is not always the easiest thing to do. In most cases, the differences are negligible, if there are any differences at all. So my recommendation is avoid it at all costs. Don't If you don't have to, if you can, don't get those those sync conflicts. Follow the guidelines they gave you. That'll prevent most, if not all of them. But if you do happen to get them, in most cases, when I've compared them, most of my conflicts have been so minor, or they were negligible, that I just ignored the conflict and didn't even worry about it. It wasn't a big deal. It's only typically when there was a big contrast and you can see a lot of differences. That's when you really want to take a closer look and say, okay, what happened here? What's going on? Oh, and last but not least, whichever one you decide to keep, you can throw it in your trash folder. When you don't want to keep, you can throw it in the trash folder. Either delete it or save it in your scrap folder for another day, just in case. Okay, well, that's a wrap on our presentation today. I know that was a lot to go through, but hopefully we got some good skills and things grounded for you. We gave you some good demonstrations, things like that. Let me go through the last couple slides here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up with our Q&A. So once again, I'd like to remind you that I love connecting with you guys, with fellow passionate writers who are serious about their craft. It fuels my inspiration and brings me great joy to help you on your author journey. Now, if you're not already part of the Turning Writers into Authors community, join us today by subscribing to my newsletter. All subscribers will gain access to a trove of valuable Scrivener and writing tools and training that is constantly growing and adding to it all the time. Plus, as a token of my appreciation, you will receive my free starter novel template, a dynamic tool that evolves with the collective insight of writers just like you. And you can access this all today by going to ojevanson.com/links. Now, of course, we have our webinar library at literaturelatte.com/library, our user forum, user manuals, blogs and video tutorials, and so much more available at literaturelatte.com and ojevanson.com/tools, as well as a full knowledge base to help you with any problem you may encounter. And if that doesn't work, we have our excellent technical support team that'll help you out and get you pointed in the right direction. And it doesn't cost you a dime. Okay, there you go. And if you want to subscribe there, that's also that link, right? QR code you can use, which is also helpful. Okay. Now, last but not least, let's talk about what's next. Now that we come to the end of our final event, what's coming up? I am excited for our February webinar series, which starts on Monday, February 17th, 2025. It's going to be here before we know it. I think it's only like 2 weeks away. I'm already in the thick of it, preparing. Just as we're ending this, I'm already like building the presentations and getting everything going. I'm really excited about it. We've got some great events planned, some collaborations coming your way. So stay tuned for that. I think you're going to love it. Once again, it starts Monday, February 17th, 2025. And I think that's 11 a.m., but I think that's wrong. It actually is going to be around 1 p.m. Central, not 11 p.m. So sorry about that. 11 a.m. So apologize for that clerical error there. Okay, well, that's a wrap. Let's open the floor for any questions you may have. I'm happy to address any concerns or confusion regarding Scrivener, cloud syncing, and its features, as well as provide tips and advice for using it effectively in your writing. So don't be shy. Ask away. I'll go ahead and stop my share here. Oh, actually, let me give you those emails real quick, too. You can see those. I'll pull up my chat and Q&A and see if we got anything. That's my email address right there if you want to email me directly. If you have a really technical Scrivener question, I do recommend you reach out directly to our technical support line. If you have if you have a suggestion for a webinar or a topic you'd like to be explored, send me an email. I'm happy to help you out there as best I can. Okay, let's see chat. Thank you, Alex, for dropping that in there. I'm going to go ahead and drop in my link in here too for anyone who needs That. There you go. Brittany Brittany Pepper, thank you. You said address some vital points for me. These presentations are gold. Have to leave for a local partner. Well, we'll miss you, Brittany. Brittany, I'm sure you're already gone, but we're glad you were able to come and enjoy that. Marianne Clark, open Scrivener on my iPad and tried to sync with Dropbox when Oliver talked about it. It's been stuck on 6 files remaining, and from then now, what should I do? Here, let me even show you right now. Uh, Mary, mine is still. I don't know if I can show this really well. Mine is still syncing, and we haven't even. We're finishing wrapping up the presentation. I'm at 5,000 files. It's going. I know it's frustrating if it's stuck somewhere. You might want to look and see if your internet connection is still good. If you haven't dropped out of connection or something like that. Um, Sometimes that can be effect. You can cancel it. Unfortunately, it's most likely going to have to. It's going to reset everything. You have to start all over. I know it's a pain, but you may just need to give it time. Plug it in. Let it sit for a little bit. Mine. Depending on how many files you have and what problem it's running into, it could take 5-10 minutes. I've even seen mine go as long as an hour before, just because I have so many projects. A lot of times that initial setup is the longest wait. Let's see here if I'm missing anything else. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. No problem, Mary. I hope that gets over Mary, if that doesn't work out, please email us and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on there. Sometimes there could be a file or something. You might just want to take one of your projects out and see if it doesn't sync. We may have to identify which file or which project is causing it not to sync, and then figure out, hey, what's wrong with this project that why it won't sync together. Because there are things like that. Some things just they run into problems. It happens. It's best that we see if we can look at the project that may be causing the problem and identify what's going on there. Because oftentimes, if you send us a copy of that project to our technical support team, they can test it in our environment here, our devices, and see if we can replicate the problem. If we can replicate the problem, typically we can figure out what's causing it. So that's definitely worth exploring too. Let's see here if I miss anything. Rick says I use Time Machine, a carbon copy cloner. If you're not too deep in backup, you're not deep enough. Thank you, Rick. I agree. You're even more hardcore than me. I need to be better. That's something about that. We all need to be better at backing up, because I tell you, stuff happens. I've had at least I'm a big Mac guy and I believe in the reliability of Apple products. But I will say in recent years the reliability has gone down. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of the matter as they become more mainstream. And I've had one, two, I think three a MacBook, a Mac Mini, and at least an iPad or so, iPad or two, that have just totally died on me. Yep, just died. I'm not big on the Apple warranty stuff either. It's usually I only get that 1 year limited service, so and a lot of times these devices were like 2-3 years old, and I'm like, there's no reason why they should be dying, but because I didn't get that extended warranty stuff, they're just kind of junk in my closet now. And then and files that were not linked up to my cloud were lost, and it was a really unfortunate situation for me. Thankfully, the majority of my core work is kept in the cloud, so it wasn't too big of a deal for me. I wasn't too heartbroken, but it was kind of a bummer. No one wants their device to fail, but yeah, it happened. So watch out for that. I've lost more data to a device breaking down and stopping working than I have in the cloud. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's good to have lots of good backups, external backups. These little flash drives, external drives are great, and even them, I usually have a couple of them with the same stuff on it, just as a backup, just in case one of those breaks down. Technology is fickle, stuff happens. Okay, let's see here. Dropbox is Rick says Dropbox is my Tetrary backup. Nice, nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, guys. Well, I think let me look at the chat here. Kristen says, I would recommend taking a look at settings that prevent syncing when in a mobile such meter connection or when in a low battery. That's a good point, Christian. Thank you for bringing that up. Those can be also prevent timely sync, uh, especially from mobile devices. Again, my experience based on a Windows 1 drive based environment. That's true. If you're connected to a cellular connection, a lot of times there's limitations as to what those devices will allow to be uploaded and downloaded. Yeah, I learned that the hard way one time when I remember that massive project I had. I had it synced on my mobile device, and I was outside. I was at a soccer game or something with my son, and I wanted everything to sync up quickly so I could work on my book. And I didn't realize that that thing was 8 GB of data at the time. It was huge, massive, right? And I only had at the time, I think like like 7 GB left in my data plan. I don't have unlimited, right? I'm cheap. I, I typically just get what I need, and typically I don't use that much data, but because of that, it ate all my data from my data plan. I didn't have any data anymore. Oh, it was such pain. I was out of the house, didn't have any internet anymore from my cellular connection. Oh, so I was really bummed out. So from that day on, all my big projects went into that special folder called desktop only, and the other ones went into my ones that work on my mobile devices, so I could still work on the go, but just on the key to projects that I work on my mobile devices, and the other ones, therefore, only when I'm using a desktop computer. Patricia says, "Hi Oliver, I had a question about making changes to my existing Dropbox. Can so if we already have Dropbox, should we create an apps folder and drop everything in there and then change where Scrivener is saving on each individual device?" Um, hmm. I mean, you could. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the question here a second. Should we create an apps folder and drop everything in there and then change where Scrivener is saving on each individual device? So where Scrivener saves your project it should be ideally the same on every device. So I save typically all my projects on my MacBook Pro, on my Mac Studio, on my PC in the same the apps Scrivener folder. So let's look at that just real quick, okay? I'm going to go ahead and drop that here. Let's go here. Okay. So I do like it doesn't matter which device I'm using. I have this desktop only one on all my desktop computers, right? Because I can access this on all my desktop computers. And Scrivener projects folders, the ones I use on my mobile devices, they're all saved here. So yes, if you don't have this folder directory, you can either use the mobile app, it'll create that when you set it up, right? Or you can just come here and literally just go, oops, let's go back to Dropbox. Go to Dropbox, click right click, click new folder, and call it apps, right? I'll just temporarily do this. I can't do that because that will just call it apps one. So so it allows us to do that. We can come in here, right? And we can literally just create a new folder called Scrivener, right? Like so, if you didn't have these folders already created, and then you would just find your projects on your computer wherever they are, and then drag and drop them in like that. Okay, bring them all over, and then they would all sync to the cloud, and you'd be good to go. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and just delete that like so. But that's how we do it. If this folder didn't exist, we'd come here. But if it does exist, go to the apps folder, create or open the Scrivener folder, and drag and drop all your projects. And you shouldn't have to do this more than once. Once it's set up on Dropbox and you install and sign into your Dropbox account on all your devices, this folder will populate automatically on all devices from because it'll download that on. You just have to come in here and move all your projects from each device into the same folder. So they're all in one place. Okay. Hopefully that helped answer your question, Patricia. If that was a little confusing, be sure to reach out to us and we'll see if we can help you figure that out. But have one existing folder. Create one and yes, create one. If you don't have one, create one and drag existing files into it. Correct. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Great. And if if you have any questions or concerns about what you did or how you did, reach out to our technical support team. Maybe take some screenshots to show what you did, and they can kind of look at that and verify that everything is looking okay, looking good. Okay. And it's tricky. Sometimes it can be tricky. It's one of those things that once you get it set up and you get it working, it's actually pretty easy to maintain. The biggest hurdle, right, is just getting it set up. There you okay. Well, guys, these have been some great questions. It's been a great presentation. I really appreciate everyone coming out here today and having a good old time. As we conclude today's session, I just want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for dedicating your time and energy to this webinar. And your active participation has really been really inspiring and really great. And it's good to see people asking some good heartfelt and some good meaningful questions here today. And it's an honor to support your writing journey alongside such a compassionate community. I hope the insights and tools today will empower you to elevate your writing craft while using Scrivener on the go. Please remember our commitment to supporting creative endeavors. It doesn't end here. Our team is always available to assist you as you explore and harness Scrivener's full potential. So stay connected with us. Be sure to check out our upcoming webinar series next month, starting February 17th. We got some good stuff for more educational and inspiring content. And until next time, I'm going to say right on and stay creative. See you guys.